That sounded better already.
Okay, there we go.
I think she's gonna try and talk into the mic.
Yes.
I don't think you have met Eric before. Eric is the guy who named the jacket after you. So
Oh,
you're
right.
practically soulmates.
Oh, that's Eric. Okay. G'day, Eric. I wear that with pride.
Nice, man. Glad you enjoy it.
Yeah, mate.
I left mine back up northern Mexico, so I don't think I'm gonna be able to get mine in time to wear it for DEF CON. But yeah, I also love it, man. Great quality stuff.
It's extra great
I
quality.
think. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Extra quality for the Fringe Bros.
I tell you
Amazing.
what, when I showed my 16-year-old daughter that, it broke her brain.
Man, yeah, I think from the Fringe side of things, well, we have us three. I'm sure like more people on the chat will join in a bit, but I think we can already get started. Is the recording going all right, Eric?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. Well, so welcome everybody that's joined this community call. We're doing this here over Discord, and you tell us if you're liking that, or if you think we should transition into Twitter Spaces or something else. For now, we're just hosting them here since the UI is very friendly, unlike Twitter Spaces, with which everyone struggles. So, yeah. Today I have here with me Eric, who is like our fellow community member turned moderator. That's a really cool thing to see how you have grown into a proper role in the ecosystem. And Brian, who's the CEO of CTO, sorry, of Fringe Finance. You already know me. I'm Carlos. So how are you guys tonight? It must be like early morning for you, Brian, isn't it? What time is it over there?
No, it's 11 a.m. It's quite reasonable.
Okay, right, because you guys moved into daylight savings times, didn't you?
Yep.
How about you, Eric? Are you in Germany?
Yeah, I'm in Germany at the moment, so it's 2 a.m. in the morning, bright and early.
Oh,
Oh
shit.
wow. Well, thanks for doing the sacrifice, man. We'll try and keep it to the time.
That's all good. I'm a nocturnal person, so it's all fine.
Right. Yeah, so Konstantin couldn't join us tonight because he's on Dubai attending an event, and I suspect having more than one drink tonight. So, cheers to you, Konstantin, if you're listening to this. We wanted to review a couple of things throughout this call, and of course, like for you guys listening, feel free to request to speak if you want to ask a question or just join with a comment. It's always great to hear from you. In the meantime, I see that someone unmuted themselves. Want to talk, Tov?
Yeah, hey, can you guys hear me?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
we hear you. Good to
Yeah,
put a voice to the name.
yeah, absolutely. I figured I'd take the opportunity to step up to the mic. Yeah, I'm Doab. I go by Game of Loans as well. Just happy to be here and try to contribute where I can. So appreciate it.
No, it's great. Yeah, there's really good dialogue and engagement you have on the community. It's I think it's really valuable.
Appreciate it. I can be a little rough around the edges, you know what I mean? But it's all in constructive, you know, type of an approach instead of just trying to fud things and whatnot. So, but yeah, I'm happy to continue to be part of this team and just be a good community member and bring what I can to the table. So.
Yeah, I would say there is absolutely no apologies required for being, as you termed it, rough around the edges. I think a direct is probably more to the point. And as you say, not fudding, because fudding just, I need a bucket when I hear people fud. You ask hard questions and relevant questions, and sometimes they're definitely not fud. and that means we've got to open the kimono the right way, and everyone gets to see really what's going on. So again, it's really appreciated, the approach you take on all of that stuff.
Absolutely, man. I have to say that I'm a fan of the Game of Loans account. It's always very nice to jump on Twitter and see notifications and see that people are like putting in effort to make more people learn about Fringe. In the end, that's what ideally marketing is about, to create cool stuff for people to organically share and to take around the networks. So it's been you've been a great addition to our community, man. And as to not spend too much time praising you, is there anything you'd like to ask us or anything you'd like to say to us before we jump into like discussing the last monthly updates?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I appreciate that feedback, guys. I really do. I guess I can kickstart it off with it looks like Binance Smart Chain just got dinged quite a bit or hacked or what have you. I guess there's preliminary tweets that have come out about that. Um, what are your guys' thoughts on all that? Have you heard about that yet?
No, I haven't.
I honestly just learned about that like 5 minutes ago when I was like surfing our Telegram chat and saw that you posted about it. But no, I haven't heard the news. So like, how did it get hacked? Do you have the alpha?
Not all of it. It looks like somebody came in as a validator and then scooped up, I don't know, 2 million or something BNB, and then is starting to spread that liquidity around. I don't know where it's all going or whatnot, but it's it just gets my brain kind of moving in the direction of how we are potentially going to be moving into cross-chain capabilities, and the dangers that are involved with all that. So I don't know if you guys have any insight into kind of the security measures that Fringe would be taking here in the future to try to help mitigate those type of attacks, et cetera.
That's a really good point. That's top of mind for us because there are a number of aspects on. Oh God, there's a number of exposure points, particularly in relation to cross-chain, but I think more generally across the DeFi ecosystem, there's a lot of dependencies we have on other projects. For example, we list USDC, and so we're dependent on USDC whitelisting and blacklisting behavior. We're dependent on, so that's not a hack security issue, but it's still a dependency on other projects. With regard to cross-chain, we at this point we're not doing cross-chain collateralization, and the testing that we're doing is really deployment of our platform onto other L1s and L2s. Now, that in itself represents certain risks because the consensus model for some of those chains is proof of authority, and they've got various vulnerabilities that we're exposed to. So it's not a perfect world out there. And even though Fringe Finance itself, as you're quite rightly highlighting, may not have the exploit or the vulnerability which is exploited in a certain circumstance, it's that dependent project and or dependent platform that may cause us issues. So all of those are, at the moment, there's so many just environmental issues in the DeFi ecosystem. And what can we do about them? Well, there are a number of things we can do for certain aspects. And for example, if we're using some wrapped token as collateral, we're dependent on the Bridge, and bridges notoriously have had problems. I'm just highlighting that as an example. We're dependent on that bridge. So we can make choices to either limit the amount of capital we allow to be borrowed against that collateral, or we simply don't list instruments like that. So there, again, it's not a perfect world, and they're hard decisions sometimes regarding that. So I've gone on a bit there, but it kind of gives you a bit of a flavor that these are things that we, do cause us that we do need to consider in all of this, and causes various degrees of concern. So that's a bit of a response.
I would like to add to that, that these kind of incidents really, I mean, Solana also just halted again, a week ago. I think it just adds to highlight how difficult the scalability trilemma really is. People take for granted that some blockchains just try and execute a trade-off in between the capabilities of what a blockchain should have, so like decentralization, security, and scalability. And people just assume that because you're trading up decentralization, that means you're checking off both of the others. And it just highlights people people might not remember this right now because it's already ancient history, but we were severely questioned for launching on the Ethereum mainnet. And over time, that decision is proven to be right because this kind of stuff just hasn't ever happened in Ethereum. And that's because they took the slow and boring approach of trying to build from the ground up, as opposed to just putting a rocket ship behind a Volkswagen, so to speak. I think, yeah. So having said that I think is our take onto this whole thing with BNB. Is there anything else you'd like us to comment on?
No, those are great points. I appreciate that. Yeah, and I think a lot of these particular chains, they tend to put the cart before the horse, and not really scrutinize the security aspect of what projects are building in this space. And I think Ethereum, is the standard. I think that when Link, brings in their CCIP structure for cross-chain, maybe that would be a secure, or one of the most secure ways to try to expand in that realm, if and when that time comes. But I think that what's been built by Fringe so far is pretty spot on, as far as I can tell. I'm not a developer by any means, I mean, I've been in this crypto space for about 5 years myself, but with that said, though, I think that slow and steady wins a race.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. Yes, I've written an article which we'll release soon on our blog, and the article really begins to look at the various vulnerabilities that we're exposed to in the DeFi ecosystem, and it begins to talk about things like that, touches on that, and it describes what our strategy is for each of those elements and how we mitigate some of the risk. So I think we'll release that in the next week.
Mic off.
But it begins to
Mic on.
Yeah, I think better explain how we're addressing some of these emerging threat models, because the landscape does change. For example, there is heightened attacks from authorities onto DeFi, and so DeFi needs to step up its game and ensure it maintains its relevance, which is uncensorability. So, yeah, I'll release that in the next week or so.
Yeah, we also get a very cool article also by me and Brian that touches on the challenges surrounding listing LP tokens as collateral assets and just everything that Fringe needs to do in order for that to happen and why we think it's such a good opportunity. So we got quite a couple of interesting reads ready for you guys. If you guys don't mind, I'm going to jump into a topic that we definitely wanted to discuss on this call, and that is the status and everything surrounding the upcoming staking platform. So we put out our monthly update 6 days ago. That's still pretty fresh. One thing that we just finished deciding upon and that we very recently outlined is that the Ascendex rewards program is going to be discontinued pretty soon. And that is effectively because of how close we're getting to the release of the actual staking platform. So Brian, would you like to touch on that and the rationale behind stopping the Ascendex program?
Sure. Ascendex is the genesis of the Ascendex program was to ensure that we maintained a community during the development stage of the product. Before my time, there are a couple of issues with the development timeline, and they changed teams, etc., etc. So the upshot of that is it delayed delivery, and the staking program was continued to ensure that the community was maintained. And that was running at a cost of 22%, I think, per month. So that works out to be several $100,000 per year, even with depressed market price at the moment. So when it was higher, I think it was certainly costing the project quite a bit, which was quite valid at the point. Now that we've got product out and we're just about to release our staking platform, which will have its own staking programs, and I'll talk about that in shortly, it makes sense that the Ascendex program can be retired. So from a logic perspective, it's an appropriate time to transition. Now, there are some other aspects that I think should be mentioned regarding the Ascendex program, because that in and itself is not sustainable for the project. So even though someone may gain some short-term benefit from that, the long-term prognosis for the governance token would be not positive. It would be far more positive if the project is running sustainably. And so that is the approach that we're ensuring is going to be in place with the project moving forward. It has to be sustainable. And I think people have heard us mention it in the past that we're here for the long term. We want to establish a solid platform. It's got a breadth of functionality. It's got unique value propositions in the market. We can take advantage of an untapped market, etc., etc. And through that, make it build the project organically from there, or organically, but with appropriate marketing and other incentive programs to really push the adoption of the project. So all of those elements are sustainable insofar as they attract proper users, they attract proper use, we have a breadth of use cases, and we can derive fees. And the project can become sustainable and ongoing as a result. So the Ascendex program in and of itself doesn't fit in with that philosophy. And in fact, everyone's reason for being here would be compromised if the Ascendex program continued. So that also is just the financial rationale that underlies the Ascendex decision also. Now, I'll just pause for a moment because I will talk a little later about the upcoming staking programs and what their philosophy is and what drives them. And they'll be running on our own staking platform. But I'll just take a pause to give people an opportunity to ask questions or to discuss that point.
Yes, if you guys want to ask questions. Also, we're reading the Telegram chat. So if you want to ask questions in there, also feel free to. Eric is here, Eric is moderating. Of course, Eric is also free to ask questions. For transparency's sake, what I would add is that Ascendex offered us to continue integrating staking with them throughout the launch of the platform, and even to integrate their staking capability directly into our native staking platform. And we ultimately declined that in order to keep to attract people into our own front end, to get people accustomed into our platform, and of course to save the costs of integrating with a centralized player. In the past, Ascendex has been a great partner, and they proved that they were when they got hacked and they effectively paid everyone back. So we're not worried about their security, but we just want to keep attracting people into our own platform. Again, if you guys want to ask questions, I see that Eric has already unmuted himself, so I'll let you speak, sir.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. I mean, the staking awards have been running for a long time, and I had to end sometime. I think we even had like a meme in the chat back in the day that we were waiting for the announcement to start to think about or start to talk about to stop the Ascendix stake, because that means something new is coming. Yeah, so that's always great, for new features to come. Yeah, that's all. Nice one.
And I think one thing that tokenomics-wise doesn't get discussed enough, as it should, is that staking programs, even though they're good because people are not selling, they create an inflationary pressure on their own. And ideally, what you want is to have a sustainable program like Brian mentioned, in which what you're distributing are fees from the platform and not just general freshly minted tokens or sending new tokens into circulation. So I think in some regard you could also make the case that having a program like us is better tokenomics wise than just inflationary pressure. Guys, if any of you wants to make a question, I'll open the floor for you now. Anyways, you can just unmute yourself. We're running this as an experiment as to not have to bring people on stake ourselves. And I think everyone's been in a pretty good behavior today. Congrats.
My pleasure, Carlos.
My God.
You were the one I was worried about, Brian.
It is.
Okay, yeah, looks like no further questions. So there were a couple points you wanted to touch on. Do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I want to just mention very briefly things that go hand in hand with the staking aspect of this project moving forward. One component, which is a very important component, is the technical deployment of the staking program, a staking platform. And the other very important component that is necessary is the design of the staking programs that go along with that. I think it's very important to emphasize that the technical deployment of the staking platform in and of itself doesn't really achieve much for the project unless the staking programs on it are appropriately designed. So I'd like to talk about the appropriate design of those to give people a feel. And I've written a piece also that will be released soon as we get closer to as we release these staking programs. But I'll give you a bit of a sneak peek into that. Now, some of the considerations for the staking programs, overall, the consideration is for it to be sustainable because they cost the project. And so it has to be the appropriate investment, the appropriate and the most effective allocation of capital or of effective investment. Some of the considerations that go into there is ensuring that it maximizes adoption and really maximizes the adoption and minimizes the cost. So really, again, just getting back to that effectiveness. So the first program, and I've mentioned this on the Telegram chat, first program will focus on incentivizing lenders, but that by definition, in fact, incentivizes borrowers also. And the way that works is, which I've mentioned a number of times, we provide an incentive for lenders. They stake their F tokens, which are the yield-bearing tokens they receive in return for depositing collateral onto the capital onto the platform, lending capital. And those F tokens, they automatically receive the prevailing interest rate for those F tokens. But if we provide a mechanism, or the intention is to provide a mechanism to allow them to stake them onto the staking platform, they earn extra yield. So in all, it means that they receive a higher effective interest rate for their deposits of capital onto the lending platform. Now, because of that, they're receiving, if you like, this combined interest rate, both of the natural interest rate from the yield-bearing F tokens plus the yield from the staking platform. If we increase the yield or the reward from the staking platform, the staking of the F tokens, to a high enough point, that will be the main attractor for the lenders. And what that means is the lenders will care less and less about the interest that they receive on the yield-bearing F tokens from the platform. So what that means is that's one lever that we can use to attract, incentivize lenders to the platform. More and more lenders come, and that interest rate that they would be receiving as a lender from the platform itself, from the lending platform itself, would be reducing because of the dynamic nature of the interest rates on our platform. And as a consequence, that reduces the interest rates for borrowers also. So as a consequence, borrowers are incentivized through this program to participate in the platform. So that's the dynamic. Now, getting that right is quite important because Fringe Finance could theoretically go out there and spend multi-millions of dollars on a program that would last for 6 weeks. And I'm only mentioning that as an extreme example of something that would be, in the long term, ineffective because it would burn up all the capital in one crack. It would invite people to participate in the platform, but because it would be short term and it would be very dynamic, when that program ceases, then people would say, well, why am I here? And they would exit the platform. It would be unsustainable and an inappropriate investment for the program or for the project. So that means there's quite a lot of consideration as to what investment needs to be made for each, or I'll take a step back and I'll say there is a phased approach which will be taken here, which will be a certain investment will be allocated to a first phase investment to incentivize lenders. And that will give Fringe and the project an opportunity to observe the behavior of the market and fine tune that program. We'll have an adoption target associated with it so that we've got some metrics that allow us to measure this so that we can then adjust it accordingly. We've got something realistically that we can target, and so we can determine whether it is effective or otherwise. That will give us information and inform us for the next phase of that staking and incentivization program. And as a consequence, each subsequent stage will be partly funded by Treasury, but also partly funded by the preceding staking program by virtue of increased adoption and the collection of fees that are associated with that increased adoption. So I just wanted to give a bit of an insight into the approach and considerations that we've got around the bootstrapping plan, particularly when it comes to lenders and borrowers. There are other aspects that will need to be incentivized with the platform, but that, I think, is the key program that needs consideration. And to give everyone a bit of insight into the significance of the design of that program, and that needs to be in place, and that the technical delivery of the staking platform in and of itself doesn't result in an effective or some large benefit for the project, but only in conjunction with the staking programs that go alongside with. So that's just a bit of insight. I know I go on sometimes, but some of this takes a little bit to describe. So if anyone has any questions or points to make or input to offer, please go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just give people a minute to ask any questions should they have any. In the meantime, and guys, if you have a question, feel free to interrupt me at any point if you want. I just confirmed that what was hacked today was a VMB bridge. So it was not just doing a bit of fact checking here. It was not the Binance Smart Chain itself that we were commenting on before. It was a bridge. Yeah. So there's a question from Crypto Blunder on our chat. Hi, Crypto Blunder. I have a question for Brian. What do you think of lenders being able to lock their lendable token to get a larger percentage of the rewards? As far as I think, Brian.
Yeah, you cut out a little bit there. I see the question. Okay,
yeah, sorry, so I accidentally muted myself.
Okay, so I've got various philosophies on this. Some staking programs and some staking regimes do entail the notion of locking tokens and having withdraw timeframes and so forth. At the end of the day, what that does, it increases friction for the staker. And the net result of that is it requires the project to offer a larger incentive to those stakers who would otherwise be deterred because of that higher friction. So essentially what it means is it results in a higher cost for the project to incentivize the stakers to come to that platform, stake those tokens, to buy those tokens to achieve the yield. So the rationale quite often for, and I think you mentioned that there, to lock and to receive a larger percentage of the rewards. So if you like, a higher cost for the project. And quite often when I talk to other CTOs and looked into this, the rationale for locking was to minimize variability in the movement of the token. So at the end of the day, volatility. And I said, okay, well, I understand that might be a goal from a high level. I understand that. And I think it's quite a valid goal. But there are other ways to achieve that, even without the necessity to lock staking. And the ways that can be achieved is to use a non-locking staking mechanism in a nuanced manner to achieve exactly the same thing, which is to, in certain cases with staking programs, instead of switching it off at any particular point in time, is to taper that down. And they're just very simple examples of how one can use a more foundational staking platform that doesn't have elaborate locking mechanisms and so forth to achieve the same thing. So that is our rationale there. We've decided not to go down that route, and for a number of reasons in addition to that, which is it's longer time to market. It introduces additional attack vectors because it's more elaborate code, and it requires a greater investment ongoing to maintain that code, which represents an opportunity cost for the project. So there was quite a number of considerations that went into the design and the staking there. But okay, I see you saying the lendable token, not the fringe token. Okay. Okay, at least I've described something that's relevant. I'll go on to that. The lending token, let me think. Okay. The interest rate model is based on utilization, the utilization rate. And we could have an elaborate mechanism which incentivizes lenders, but we can achieve this in an alternative manner, which is via the staking program, the staking platform. We can simply establish a staking program that incentivizes lenders, as you're mentioning here. So that achieves the same thing, and that is the benefit of the staking platform, because it's quite general purpose for us in that respect. We can establish these kinds of programs. So I think that addresses your question. Let me know if there's anything else that you want me to cover off there.
Yeah, thank you for the detailed answer. One question that someone sent, and that actually I was talking to our CEO Paul Mack about very recently. Although I see that it got deleted for being obvious, food on our chat was about there's a rumor going on in sectors of the community that says that Paul has been selling the Fringe Finance Treasury on exchanges and on decentralized exchanges. This is like the answer directly from Paul, that if you go and check that wallet in Etherscan, you can see that wallet in particular that they're referring to got their tokens through the distribution of tokens. So it's not an official wallet from us, and it's not a treasury wallet. It's a user. Now, what is surprising in this case is that this particular user, they do hold a considerable number of tokens. You can consider this a whale rather than a Fringe Finance member, or a treasury wallet. In case people were wondering what the deal was with this piece of food, it's nothing more than that. It's just people trying to food the project and the people working with it. Does anyone have any questions regarding this or regarding everything that Brian just explained regarding staking programs? No worries. I see like someone saying thank you for addressing that. It's good that we discuss these things openly. I also think, and this is very much me echoing Paul's view here, that Fringe Finance has proven at this point that we are in the business of delivering. In the past, there were delays, but we've proven that we care about our community. Like this Ascendex program that we've been talking about for at least 10 minutes has been discontinued, but it was going on for a considerable amount of time to keep the community engaged while we focused on delivering the primary lending platform. And it's just getting discontinued now that we've spent a considerable time and money developing these products that we're rolling out. So I hope you guys can understand that we are seriously in the business of building and delivering. Any other questions, guys? Either on the chat and on the or here on the voice channels. And yeah, I also like this format for transparency. Eric, I know you had a list of questions that you wanted to ask, so if you want to go ahead, feel free to.
Yeah, I mean, it's just maybe some questions over the last few days, or just kind of themes, kind of people had been discussing maybe in the Telegram chat. Just about like cross chain for Fringe, and I know it's like there's lots of stuff on the roadmap. I mean, the staking thing, all like everything else that's coming out. So like I don't mean like when or what, but like if that was to happen, kind of what chains would you guys look at if that can be discussed, or in general, just like maybe a quick update on the idea of cross chain for Fringe. I know it was touched on in the end of month report, but yeah, just any comments or anything that you would have to add on that topic.
Sure. In short, EVM chains.
Nice.
And so that's layer ones and layer twos. We're particularly interested in
Mic off.
ZK roll-up chains. Just in terms of the philosophy and the way we go about that, there are a number of considerations. As I mentioned a little earlier, there is the proof of authority relating to chains, and also the risks also with proof of stake chains. But at the end of the day, we're currently in the process of just validating and testing that things are working smoothly on those alternate chains, and also that our user interface of swapping between those chains is slick. So we want that user experience to be good. So technically, there are a number of considerations here with the various chains. Technically, we can deploy relatively readily to other EVM chains. Now becomes the matter of deciding what assets to list on the lending platform on those chains. So it requires us to analyze determine at this point whether USDC is listed on that chain. And if so, well, it's an easy deployment because currently we support USDC as our lending token. Then we determine the collateral tokens that we need to, or that we have available on those other chains that can be listed on the Fringe Finance platform. And at the moment, our Oracle strategy is quite tied to Chainlink for various reasons and various good reasons. So it requires there to be Chainlink price feeds for those collateral tokens on the other chains. So the set of considerations that go into how we either select the chains and or then the collateral assets that are listed on those other chains. And there's still a bunch of other considerations, which is, are there assets on that chain which are rather more or less native to that chain that don't exist elsewhere? And we're interested primarily in scenarios like that because it gives us quite a unique value proposition on that chain, because people will want to exploit the utility available in the DeFi ecosystem for that given token, and if we can provide some of that utility, that gives us a great opportunity. Other considerations are with some of those other chains, the tokens which are listed there are ubiquitous tokens, such as, tokens that we know and love from other platforms, and that they're large tokens, such as Uniswap and so forth. With those types
I would
of
add in there. I would add in there that another factor that we're really considering is going into everything Brian said, but also chains that do not have prolific lending ecosystems yet. So for us, if we conduct the analysis of a chain and we think it's got potential, and we see that it does not currently have lending opportunities or lending markets, that automatically pushes it up our priority list, because it just illustrates that there's an opportunity for us to fill a market gap in there. Sorry to interrupt. You can go ahead.
Okay. No, that's a really good point. Yeah, lending markets and whether we've got hard competition in those other chains, because of course not all of those chains have developed lending markets. So, so all in all, there are a number of considerations that go into determining how we're going to operate in those other chains. Currently, we're in the process, which I've mentioned a number of times over the last month and a half or so, that we're in the process of testing those chains and the primary lending platform on those chains. And again, the technical deployment of this will be one thing, but then the configuration and listing of tokens will be another thing. So I hope that kind of answers part of your question. Let me know anything that I haven't really covered off there.
No, that sounds great. I mean, it's not like an easy task of copy and pasting to another chain, because yeah, as you said, you have the whole, to get all the new coins, new assets listed, and that whole process to do it again then on another chain, which has to also be vetted for security and all that kind of stuff before. So yeah, it's not just such an easy task of switching over. So yeah, I get that, and good to hear that it's being considered in some shape or form.
Yeah, okay, great. Yeah. Devil's in the detail almost always with everything in life.
Yeah. Awesome.
And at some point, I reckon there's like, I mean that there's a leap of faith component in there, certainly, like, because everything is working under a set of assumptions that might turn out to be right or wrong, but like, we're betting on getting as much information as possible before doing anything, and before pulling any triggers. Any other questions on your list, Eric, or anyone really? Like, feel free to jump in, guys. We don't bite.
Mic on.
I just maybe bring one more. Like, what do you guys think, or is there an idea for the maximum amount of coins that can be listed, or is there, do you guys have some sort of limit? There is no limit, or what would you think?
There's no technical limit.
Yeah. Okay.
I think we use a uint 255 as a counter for the index for each listing token. So whatever the largest number is that can be held in that data type, I think that is going to be our limit.
Mic on.
Really nice.
Yeah, I think like really the value proposition is precisely the opposite, and the value proposition is to be able to list as many assets as possible, and to never really and to just continue to expand our capacities. Now there are clear current limits that we are trying to break. So for example, right now we're only listing assets with Chainlink feeds. Eventually there will be a point in which we run out of assets with Chainlink feeds, and we have to, and we're currently working on that. We're currently working on figuring out ways to list assets without Chainlink feeds, because that's certainly a limit now. Alex from our team has been working very diligently on talking to people that have written papers and are on the business of studying like the cases for swap feeds, for example, and he devised a rather smart way that turned out to be impractical, but he devised a way for us to be able to list assets with swap feeds, and he even managed to validate it from these people. So even though we managed to make a technical breakthrough, it would just be too costly to carry out with these solutions. So yeah, we're in the business of figuring out ways to list as many as possible. And that also obviously includes assets from multiple chains, because of course, as soon as you move into another chain, there's specific assets that open up to you. Any caveats or anything that I missed in there, Brian?
No.
Okay.
Long and the short of it is there are other Oracle technologies coming to the fore. We're assessing those, and I've had quite a lot of involvement with API 3 and looking at their decentralized or their DAPIs, decentralized APIs or distributed APIs. And that kind of a model makes sense for us moving forward, because it reduces reliance on single parties and censorability of oracles. I think it's quite an extended set of considerations that go into oracles, because we, as much as possible, want to remove any reliance on single parties. And when I say reliance on single parties, I mean it's censorability and any centralization of any oracle solution. And the threat models that are posed by that. So it's a moving feast. We're assessing all of that continually, and there's a lot on our plate, but that's certainly part of what we're doing.
Yep. Okay, I think it's a good time to start wrapping up the call. I mean, we're almost on the hour mark. Of course, guys, if you want to jump in, say anything else, drop a question, feel free to. Otherwise, I feel like we're good wrapping up. It's been a very productive call. And for the details about the stuff we mentioned on discontinuing Ascendex, right after the call, I'll just be dropping a tweet on our official account announcing the date that the Ascendex rewards will be discontinued, just so you have an official source for this, as well as this call, which might take a couple of days to be uploaded to YouTube. Any parting thoughts, Eric, Brian?
Mic on.
I just want to say it's nice that you will actually host this call. It's a pleasure to hear Doab's voice. Because we've been doing a lot of stuff on Twitter the last few months, and shout out just to everyone that is doing stuff on Twitter. Because sometimes when we use our hashtags like DeFi or lending or even USDC, sometimes it shows up in all the feeds. So I think it's all going to pay off, and that's all. Just shout out to the Twitter people. There's like a few select people in the community that have been doing a lot on Twitter, and thanks Brian and Carlos for taking the time.
Likewise,
yeah, and
thanks
for the
everyone
community.
else for joining.
For the community, every little effort that you put out, it counts. Like, you never know who's gonna see the stuff you put out. Like, we've gotten some really high quality members lately, and just more new people coming into the chat and asking questions and be generally interested. And that's our ultimate goal for you guys to be the ultimate ambassadors for Fringe Finance. So thank you very much for joining this call, and we'll be uploading the recording to YouTube pretty soon. Bye-bye, everyone.
All right. See you.